So, with Return to Tomorrow, you don't get a time travel episode, which is what it sounds like in the title, but you do get yet another encounter with godlike beings, to a certain extent, not quite as godlike as some of the others, but basically the Enterprise receives a distress call from a dead planet. When they get closer, they're telepathically contacted by a being named Sargon, and invited to beam down. And the Sargon refers to the crew as his children. Now, that's another interesting aspect that may or may not, if depending on how you want to do it, connects with a later Star Trek The Next Generation episode, which revealed that that there was a common ancestor for humans, Klingons, Romulans, all that. That was a pretty cool little story they did there. We'll get to that when I take on Star Trek Next Generation reviews. But it was obviously an attempt to explain, hey, how come all the aliens are mostly humans, humanoid looking, you know? Well, there you go. And there is the theories of panspermia, that planets could be seeded by life that can travel through space and all that sort of thing. And then you can also go into, it was deliberately done, ancient aliens and alien astronauts, whatever it was, ancient astronauts, all that type of stuff, and can play into this. Now, this is a guy who's the last survivor of a race that destroyed themselves through orbit. They achieved incredible technologies and powers. And there was only a few of them left. They no longer have bodies. Their consciousness are housed within these spheres. And with his broad powers of telepathy, he's been searching the universe for someone to help them out. Eventually, he contacts the Enterprise, and so here they come. And the deal is, listen, buddy, we want to build android bodies for ourselves so we can interact with you and teach you all our secrets and knowledge that could help you advance a lot sooner than you ordinarily would. And we know a lot of cool stuff. And but we need to borrow your body so we could build these androids. So, of course, Kirk says, okay. Well, of course they discuss it. Bones is like, I don't know, this is crazy, but Kirk says, we're supposed to seek out new life and new civilization. And he gives a little speech there and all that. So he, Spock, and a new character, played by Diana Muldaur, we'll see her again. And, of course, later on in Star Trek The Next Generation. So, hey, there could be a whole narrative there of who she's related to. That's okay. So they agree to this, and so the aliens take over their bodies. Well, of course, the one that takes over Spock is, he's not a nice guy. And he's like, listen, those android bodies, that's no good. So we should just keep these. And, of course, his body, the human bodies are having difficulty maintaining these entities within them. They start to deteriorate. And they have to come up with a treatment to maintain it. But the Vulcan body can house, what's his name, Hinnock, much longer. But at the same time, they still need it. So they concoct this treatment for it, but then, of course, Hinnock hypnotizes Chapel to give a placebo to Sargon, because he's working against Sargon, wants him done away with, and this would result in Kirk's death. But, want to make an omelet, got to crack some eggs. So that's what he's doing, and intends to do that. Well, he tries to corrupt Sargon's wife, Thalassa, because she doesn't want to be in the android bodies either. But at the same time, she's not willing to go that far and all this sort of stuff. And she doesn't want to lose Sargon. So, of course, the plan doesn't work, but Hinnock's very powerful, and ends up seemingly destroying both of them. So it looks like the receptacles are all dead and destroyed, which means Spock is gone, and they have to rush to stop Hinnock, who is now in Spock's body. But it turns out Spock is actually in Nurse Chapel's body, so he was able to transport in that. Which with Spock's and the Vulcan capabilities, in my mind, it stands to reason he would be the one that could possibly achieve that. And it was interesting to note that he said, so even Nurse Chapel says, and for a moment, Spock and I were one. Of course, we know Christine Chapel is in love with Spock. And Spock, of course, is aware of this, but boy, can you imagine you're in the mind of someone who's infatuated with you? He said, you know, Christina, I saw a lot of dreams you have about me. So anyway, they get the drop on Hinnock, and of course he says, well, I'll just go to another body. But then Sargon's consciousness, which was easily the most powerful one of the three, is still around, and he prevents Hinnock, and that's the end of Hinnock. And then he and Talisa agree to, take off into the cosmos and see what lay ahead, which is like, after all that time, they say, well, I guess we'll just die like we're supposed to. So, but first they jump into Kirk and, what's her name? I forget. She was one of the officers. Diana Muldaur's character. And they make out, and then leave while they're still making out. So you kind of wonder, did Kirk and her get together a couple of times after? Because knowing Kirk, probably did. But anyway, so there you go. It's an interesting thing. They lost the chance to get to this technology and stuff, but then it brings up the question of should they? They're always going about the purpose of the Prime Directive for cultures that haven't developed warp capabilities. They decide, well, our interference could ruin their natural progression. But here you would be choosing to interrupt your own by, taking up this advanced knowledge and technology that these people had. But there again, they're kind of doing this anyway because they keep interacting with other civilizations who might, have better warp drives or better phasers or whatever, and that's going to happen. So but this would be quite a leap had they done it, but they were going to do it, but fortunately there was a bad guy who prevented the whole thing, or maybe unfortunately, however you want to see. So, it was an interesting little play-off there. And also, the temptation. I mean, obviously, because the android bodies would house them. It would be a moving version of the receptacle spheres that they were in. That is kind of a bit of a plot hole here. Is I guess they ran out of time, or they couldn't make the androids at the time that they ended up putting themselves in these storage spheres to sit there. And gee, I hope we can find somebody suitable enough to help us out. Seems like they would have taken bodies long ago, but anyway, but certainly after all that time of just existing as consciousness in those receptacles and not going insane is another thing. Is like, wow, boy, how'd they manage that? And then suddenly you're back in a body. You can feel, all the senses and everything. And especially since, it's attractive bodies too, so that's a plus. Makes you wonder, how did they look before? It might not have been so great. And then suddenly you got to give it all up. That's going to be pretty tough. But Sargon was the true believer, so I guess in the end he was the hero of the whole thing. So, an interesting, as always was Star Trek, even in their weaker episodes, conceptually, it is a fascinating display. So, but I don't think this is one of the weaker ones, although I do say, it's kind of a plot hole. It's like, why didn't they develop the bodies? They could have been more mobile a long time ago, seeking other possibilities. And then of course the idea of cloning would come up. You could clone a body of yourself and put yourself in it. But now they're just pure energy, and so, Whatever. That's the way it is. So, return to tomorrow. I don't know. I guess the promise of knowledge and a future that they could have had and development, but it stands to reason that it's also a cautionary tale of how much power and advancement humans can make into the future, and not to become these people. So I guess that could be the little lesson. But still, it does sound like a time travel title. Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, there you go. Another great classic episode of Star Trek.
All right. Thank you for watching and listening. Why not like and subscribe, and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores and have plenty of goodies for you. You know, hats, mugs, stickers, posters, all that goody stuff. Plus, you can head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book Night Night. Oh, yeah. Plus, you can also catch my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, over at RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on my channel at BitChute. That's the Mr Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.